Hey, what's up guys, how's it going? I want to talk a little bit about the competitive battles community and the competitive battles players and the new update that is coming out very soon. It's a bit of a touchy subject, and I don't really want to make anybody angry, but I also want to throw my opinion out there. Just as you guys are allowed to throw out your opinion in the comments below, or make your own videos about this. First and foremost, I did not tell Ninja Kiwi directly to nerf the dart and chipper. There seems to be some confusion about that. Last time that I talked to Ninja Kiwi about buffs and nerfs, I asked them to nerf the dart monkey, and they did, but they changed the price of triple darts from 330 to 400. That's all they did for me. In some videos that I do mention that the dart balloon chipper farm is a meta, is kind of annoying, you got me on that. But it's the truth. Almost every high-ranked game, I tend to see players like that, and it's honestly, it's kind of sad right now, because there's no innovation in battles anymore. That was the most fun part of the game to me, to play with different strats in different ways on different maps and invent things that worked better than my opponent. Instead, the game has gotten a bit stale to me. To see Dart Farm get used as much as it does right now is I don't think it's exciting, and I honestly don't see how the competitive community could possibly think that keeping 3 towers being super duper unbelievably amazing could possibly be a good idea. I don't get that. Alright, so it seems like the competitive community is really angry about the changes to battles. And while I do understand their concern, I think that many of them may be a little bit too angry about the update. So I'm going to go over quite a few things in this video. I'm going to talk about the user base and how the user base is going to be affected by this update. I'm kind of going to explain, I guess, like the biggest complaints that people are having about the update, and then whether those complaints are valid or not. So those are like the main things I'm going to talk about. First thing we need to talk about is the user base. Also, by the way, if you don't know what's going on in the background, I played a bunch of random trio Moab Pit today, and I'm just going to show you guys like 30 minutes of gameplay. I sped it up a crap ton just so you guys could see some really intense fun gameplay throughout the day. These are all in a row. All these games are in a row. I did not just pick and choose which ones that I wanted to show you guys. They're all in a row, so that should be a pretty fun time, right? So anyways, let's break down the user base just a little bit. I'm talking about people who play battles. There is low-level players, medium-level players, high-ranked players, and competitive players. So I'm breaking everybody down into 4 groups. These groups are not 100% defined, but they're, it just makes sense, right? So there's like, for low-level players, there's hundreds of thousands of fairly active players, maybe even millions. I know that might be stretching it a little bit, but there are at least 1 million people who have downloaded battles and played the game at some point. I think for the most part, though, there are hundreds of thousands of fairly active users, and most of these people are playing quick battles that earn 5 medallions, maybe playing in the Yellow Stadium, but nothing more than that. It's just low-level players. They just play the game. They're trying to kind of unlock everything. That's kind of their main goal at this point. Unlock all the towers. Then there's medium-level players. There's definitely tens of thousands of these players active and online every day. If you look at the Yellow Stadium, Lead Dungeon, Rainbow Runes, and maybe even Ceramic Crucible, if you add all these guys together, including defensive mode and maybe even some people in quick battles as well, you're going to get tens of thousands of people who play this fairly consistently. These people are decent players, but they definitely don't have 1 million medallions or anything like that. They're competing for 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 medallions at most, and this I'll talk about how it's going to affect them a little bit, but this is going to affect them a little bit. Then there's high-ranked players. There's thousands of these guys. If you look at the amount of medallions that people earn at the end of the week, and you see the weekly leaderboard, you can see that there's thousands of people that earn several thousand medallions every single week. Maybe even 10,000, maybe even 100,000, maybe even 1 million medallions every week. These people are kind of, 1 million medallions, that's pretty crazy, but some people do that. So they are still high-ranked players. And then there's competitive players. There's only around 100 competitive players, maybe a few more than that. Some of the competitive players that say they're competitive aren't even active anymore. They're still really good at the game and everything, but they're not even really active. So when you think about it like that, we're talking about a logarithmic scale here, basically. You're talking about 100,000, 10,000, 1,000, and then 100. We're losing a 0 every single time we're here. So realistically, Ninja Kiwi's biggest goal is to update the game to the best of their ability and have the best results for a majority of the players. I can get that can really make competitive players angry. You could think that it's ruining the game for you, but I want to try to rebuttal a few of the complaints that I've seen about the update in just a second here. But I think it makes sense though, right? It just makes sense that Ninja Kiwi wants to do the thing that's the best for the majority of the players. Just like a government wants to do what's best for the majority of the people. It all just makes sense to me. So again, I can see how it can be sort of angrifying for these competitive players. I can see how it can get kind of angrifying for these low-level maybe these high-ranked players. But it's really not going to affect the low-level players all that much. It's going to make the game hopefully more fun for them. For the medium-level players, it's the same thing. Hopefully going to make the game a little bit more fun for them with the Ninja Wizard strategies and everything. High-ranked players, it'll hopefully create some innovation. People are going to start making up these new, more fun strategies. They'll make the game more interesting. And I think for the competitive players, even though people are hating on it already, I think that it's going to make it more fun for them in the long run. And I don't think they realize that yet. You may think I'm wrong, and that's fine. That's totally fine. You can hate on me if you want, but I think by the time we get to... he just surrendered. That was hilarious. I remember I laughed out loud when he surrendered. But anyways, I think you're going to realize that you're going to find cool and interesting strategies, and you're going to be learning from other players, and it's going to be more fun for you than you probably remember. Getting stuck in that Dart Monkey, Balloon Chipper, Banana Farm strat could have been fun for a while, but I think you're going to have more fun doing it this way, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think it will. So, alright. So, I guess the first argument that I've seen a lot is... Well, it hasn't even come out yet, alright? It hasn't even come out yet. We need to give the update a bit of time to see if people are as innovating and as free-thinking as I think they are. Because I remember a time when I thought that regen rainbows were impossible to defend. Yeah, I'm not joking, guys. I couldn't defend regen rainbows. I thought they were unbelievably unfair. Keep in mind, I'm talking about Flash, and I was a much worse player back then. But with a little bit of time, basically everybody learned to defend regen rainbows. It's actually pretty easy to defend now, at least for the most part. So, basically what I'm getting at is that even though you might think that there's no possible way that you could defend later into the game, I think that people will learn how to make new, better, more interesting / fun strategies that you haven't even thought of yet because of this new update. And again, you might disagree with me, but you have to go with me on this one because I've seen it happen. I've been around battles since it came out like 4 years ago, and I have a lot of experience in a lot of these updates that are coming out. Alright, so I'm a very, very logical person. I love logic. I want everything to just make sense. And I'm going to be about as logical as I possibly can about this update, not emotional like a lot of other people are. They see change and they freak out. Of course, changes can be upsetting, though. I get that. I think it needs to be said that I want battles to be perfect. I really do, guys. I want every single tower to be just as useful as the other towers. If that happened, could you imagine the amount of fun and cool strategies that could be done? This game would be unbelievably exciting for regular players and for competitive players as well. There wouldn't be a quote-unquote meta, a certain way to play the game. There would be hundreds of valid strategies even for the best players. The game would not get stale or boring. Every single game would be completely different. And, that's my dream. That's my dream. Doesn't it sound amazing, though? Don't you guys want that, too? Don't you want the game to be really, really fun? I think Ninja Kiwi is trying to make that happen. We just need to work together as a community to make our dreams come true. Whether you're learning about the game or a hardcore competitive player, let's work together, man, on a logical and reasonable way to make the game better. Freaking out and yelling is not going to get stuff done. It's throwing a tantrum, and that's not a good way to do it. We need to be logical, we need to be reasonable, and we need to make things happen that way, right? So, let's talk about the biggest complaints. Maybe I'm a little bit wrong about this, but this is what I've seemed to have grasped from what I've seen so far. Number one, I see this a lot, by the way, is that you can't defend anymore past round 32. And, quote-unquote, the first person to rush wins. No. I have to disagree with that. So, the way it works right now is that once you get to round 32, the game starts to ramp up a lot. It starts to get very, very difficult. All the Moab-class balloons get a bunch of extra health once you get to level 32, and every round after that, they get more and more health, so it gets very difficult very quickly, right? But I disagree that it's the first person to rush wins. You know, one of the arguments is there's no way to stall anymore. The balloon chipper was the only thing that could stall Oh My Gods, but that's not true. There's 2-4 ninjas, which can slow down all the balloons by half speed, and now the ninjas are going to be much more useful with the cheaper ninja upgrades on the low end. The sniper, which is a fairly underused tower, can now be used a little bit more effectively as a Oh My God stopper. Now it's actually going to be something people might want to use. Again, this is the thing that it might surprise people. There's ways to stall the balloons that you haven't thought of before. What? You might have to pick the sniper as one of your towers? Yes, you might. So things are going to change a little bit, but I don't think that it's the first person to rush wins. And you know what? I think even if it is, it's going to be, people are going to learn to do double rushes at the same time and have a bunch of fun doing it that way. You know what I mean? Even if both people rush the Oh My God at the same time, and then you have to defend that Oh My God while still trying to rush with other, secondary balloons underneath that, that's what makes for an exciting / fun game. Why do you need to defend until round 35? I don't get that part. A lot of people think, I need to defend until round 35. I don't get that. Why do you need to defend until round 35? Why can't the game be exciting on round 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32? Why does it need to be a completely stalemate defensive game? Why can't you attack on those other rounds? Now the balloons are going to be cheaper. You can be more aggressive and not have it affect you all that much. You can do balloon income and still rush at the same time. So I don't get why people are saying this round 32 thing is affecting them all that much. I know that the meta currently is a bit of a defensive game. You want to defend until round 35 if you have more lives. And that's fine. That's fine if that's the meta right now, but adapt and change and be a better player because of it, because there's not only one way to play the game. Let's make it a more interesting game. Let's make it so people can be aggressive and still have a fun time doing it. I think that's kind of what I'm getting at right now. Let's be aggressive and let's have some fun doing it. Alright, number 2. So that was only the first one, guys. I know. Number 2. All the other towers need to be buffed. Not the good towers being nerfed. I've seen this a lot. Again, it makes a little bit of sense to me. Alright, I sort of understand. People are saying that they want it to be more of a defensive game. You should be able to defend until round 35. That's what they want. Again, I don't understand that part. But they want to be able to defend until round 35 or 38 or whatever round you want to defend to. Maybe even trying to go for quote-unquote late game games. Alright, fair enough. I guess I understand that. But at the same time, they did actually buff some other towers. They didn't make them fantastic for late game, but they did buff other towers. And what Ninja Kiwi did was they tried to kind of even out all the towers. That was the first goal. You want to even out all the towers, and then if you need to make slight minor changes after you even out all the towers, you can still change the game. People think that this is going to be the update for the next 2 years, and that is just not true. It doesn't need to be the update for the next 2 years. They can make changes by next week. If they see that something ridiculous is happening that shouldn't be happening, they can update the game again. Whoa, mind blown, man. Mind freaking blown. You can still change the game after an update? Yeah, you can. So if there's just ridiculous things happening that are just unreasonable for competitive players, I'm sure that Ninja Kiwi wants to help you guys out, and I'm sure we can make it happen. We can make some changes in there. But yeah, I think the main thing is that I understand that you want other towers to be better so you can defend in the late game, but I don't think that that's the way the game needs to be played. And I don't say it's not, my preference is to have aggressive, fun, interesting games, not a defensive stalemate the entire time. That's my preference. But again, the game doesn't need to be played through my preference of the way I like to play. The game can be played a multitude of ways, and you can still find different ways to defend and different fun ways to defend. Alright, number 3. The Balloon Chipper nerf. Oh, baby. The Balloon Chipper nerf. You guys think I'm going to be on Ninja Kiwi's side here, right? Not really. I don't know. I don't really get it. Like, the Balloon Chipper has been... It is really good right now. You gotta give me that. It's really, really good late game tower, and it's one of the ways that people think is the only way to stall in the late game until the end of quote-unquote round 35, which at the end of that, whoever has more lives wins. So, without the Balloon Chipper to stall balloons, they think that, it won't be a defensive game anymore. It won't be about who has more lives in the end anymore. And, I kind of understand that. I mean, the only reason that people used the Balloon Chipper in the first place was to kill Oh My Gods, right? that was the only useful part of the blue chipper. Nobody even used it for Moabs or BFBs. It was for Oh My Gods. Like, you could use it for Moabs, you could use it for BFBs, but that wasn't even that good. It was good for Oh My Gods. It was the only thing that could take down a Oh My God layer very quickly, right? And I don't really understand the 4-0, nerf that much. It's a little bit brutal. It really is. So, I kind of wish that they wouldn't. It's not that I don't want them to change the blue chipper at all, but I think they need to change it in a slightly different way. Maybe they can make it affect Oh My God still, but up the price to maybe 10 or 12,000 for that 4-0 or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to change it, but I don't think the not affecting Oh My Gods at all and keeping it at the same price point is going to be an effective way for the balloon chipper to be. It's not going to be used at all. Nobody's going to use the balloon chipper anymore. It's going to be straight from the most used tower to the least used tower in the game, just because it can't affect Oh My Gods, and that's kind of a ridiculous change right there, and maybe a little bit too crazy. All right, so number 4, darts got brutalized. So the balloon chipper got brutalized as well. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. But darts got brutalized. But I think people need to understand that they were 100% way too frickin' power to the ridiculous scale. You guys got way too used to darts being really frickin' good. Get used to darts being a normal tower. That, even at the current nerfs, I still think that they're going to be a valid tower in battles. As ridiculous as that might sound, even with those crazy nerfs, they just aren't going to be in every single loadout anymore. They're going to be in random loadouts, and people are still going to use darts, and darts are still going to be decent towers, and darts are still going to be used, but they're not going to be overpowered anymore. And I actually have to say that I think that I don't know how it's going to be played anymore. I haven't played with it yet. I don't know how the darts are going to work. But we're talking about, the main tower that people use is the 0-3, and we're talking about a $100 change here. 400 to 500. 20% more expensive. Is that really that crazy? I mean, the Super Monkey Fan Club and the Juggernaut and everything, like, those are changes, right? That's going to affect the long-term gameplay and everything. But realistically, the main thing that the dart is supposed to be good for, the 0-3 Dart Monkey, did not get changed all that much. So I still think that darts are going to be a fairly valid tower, but now you're going to have to find different ways to defend in the late game. Super Monkey Fan Clubs aren't going to be quite as effective as they used to be. And don't get me wrong, Super Monkey Fan Clubs are way too overpowered in the first place. For $8,000, defending Moabs and BFBs very easily, even with all the balloons inside, was kind of ridiculous. They had some of their weaknesses. The grouped balloons could eventually get through, and no-lead popping power and stuff like that. I get that. But, the darts, they just were too overpowered. You have to understand, you have to agree with me on that. If every single person, every single time is using darts and having basically only pick one tower, and if you could use one tower for the entire game and be completely fine, 100% fine with that, and survive and do really well, that doesn't seem like a reasonable tower to me. So, yeah, I mean, I get that darts were brutalized, and I get that that's going to affect the meta a lot, but I need to see how it's going to affect the game and how it's going to affect my gameplay before I make any very specific thing that you guys can quote me. I don't want you guys to quote me on anything saying that I think that darts are still going to be useful now. I don't know. I hope that they're still going to be reasonably useful, and I can almost guarantee that 0-3 darts will still be a fairly useful tower. But now, with the Juggernaut nerf and the Super Monkey Fan Club nerf, this game, they're going to be a little bit harder to use. That's for sure. And I think, honestly, even though it sounds weird, I think they're going to be a very fair tower now. They're going to be an even tower. People are going to fight to use, they're not going to know if they should use Dart or Ninja, and I think it'll depend on the level whether they use Dart or Ninja or Wizard, and that's ridiculous, but it's going to happen. I know people are going to say that I'm stupid for saying the Wizard in there, but 1-1 Wizards are going to be pretty solid, man. Trust me on that. You're going to learn. $100 cheaper on those 1-1 Wizards, they're going to be nice, especially for spamming. Alright, so I guess to finish off here, guys, this is the last thing I want to say. Basically, I want everyone to come together as a community instead of attacking other people. We can make changes to battles, and we can make battles one of the greatest games of all time. If we work together, we don't need to fight each other about this stuff. Let's work together on it and make the game amazing, because we all have the same goal here, guys. Whether you're a new player or a competitive player or anywhere in between, we all want the same goal. We want the game to be fun. So let's make it happen, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a super duper delicious day.